everyone, and welcome to another session of Coffee and Commerce. My name is Dolan Bassick, and I'm actually in charge of our marketing and strategic partnership efforts here at StrikeTru. We have a special dedicated session today, and very, very fortunate to have a strong partnership with our e-commerce partner, BigCommerce. And, we want to give a shout out and kudos to the team there and really extend a heartfelt thank you to our partnership with BigCommerce. If it wasn't for our CSM managers, our client relationship managers, involvement with the sales team and so forth, we wouldn't be able to bring to you today the opportunity that we're about to discuss. You might be asking, well, what's this opportunity? Hopefully all of you do know what it's about. It's a need that we hear a lot from our BigCommerce merchants that's really focused around migrating from version 2 platform to version 3. And it's something that many have done and others may be considering or may not be aware of what's involved. So today we are very fortunate to have with us one of our merchants, BigCommerce merchants, Andrew from Whisker Seeker, who really decided to work with us to help with their V2-V3 migration. And as you see from the welcome slide, Andrew is a senior marketing specialist at Whisker Seeker. And so he's going to talk a little bit today about what's the opportunity, why they selected us, what was the process, and also what's down the horizon. And then, of course, we have with us our very own Deb Bassick, and he worked with Andrew and team to make it happen, to make the migration work. And he's going to talk to you all about what that looks like, what you can expect, and walk you through what to expect in the app. So as you can see from the agenda slide, Andrew's going to talk about the opportunity, Deb's going to come in, talk about how it works. Andrew's going to then share with us what's next on the horizon. And then finally, we'll open it up for Q&A and talk about next steps in terms of our upcoming events. So with that being said, Andrew, it's all yours.
Awesome. Hey, thank you, Deb, Dolan, Vic, everybody. Thank you, StrikeTru, for having us on here today. So yeah, quick little bit of kind of a synopsis about us. So we are Whisker Seeker Tackle. We are one of the leading tackle and fishing companies here around. Specifically, we do target catfish. All of our products are meant for that, but really it's a great multi-species. A lot of different types of species that you can be used with our products, as well as both saltwater as well as freshwater fishing. So really started out small. Our owner-founder started out in his basement. It was about 8 years ago in 2015. Since then, we have just grown and grown and grown, especially over the last few years. Here at the end of 2022, we were actually purchased, joined the Pradco Outdoor Brands, whose parent company is EBSCO. So ended up joining with a Fortune 200 company this year, which has been pretty nice. What we recognized over the years is distinct need for two different channels. So we have, we started out as primarily a B2C, going directly to the consumers. Hey, those end fishing, the end anglers are using our products, dealing directly with them. Then we started to get a lot of mom and pop and bait shops and big box stores on board. So what we determined is that, hey, we definitely need two different channels now for our B2B and our B2C platforms, our B2C channels. Originally just went ahead, started a second BigCommerce store, really didn't think anything of it. That was kind of the best guidance at the time given by our CSM for BigCommerce. Realized right off the bat, we started running into some issues of keeping inventory tracked. My poor inventory specialist was having to go through two stores all the time and kind of do this constant balance and changing act and doing all that stuff, and really just a lot of clunky kind of logistical issues. So went back to our CSM, said, hey, we've heard about this new MSF feature that's coming out, but we understand, our newest B2B store is on version 3, but our B2C store is still on this older version 2, the original one. So with talking with our CSM, no joke, the first company out of her mouth was StrikeTru. It was her recommendation to speak with them. So we set up a meeting, had a couple of kind of walkthroughs, both with Vic and with Samad, and just got an idea of what the process was going to be looking like. And really that is all it took. Once I found this company and knew that they were going to be able to take us through kind of both steps of the operation, which the one we're talking about here is going V2 to V3. That's what we're doing, but kind of longer picture. The other thing they're going to do for us is take us and combine our 2 stores into MSF. So it's been a very long time coming. That was kind of the background of why we got to this point of needing 2 stores. And biggest thing was just getting that original store there, our B2B channel upgraded to from V2 to V3.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Andrew. So with that being said, let's transition it to Deb. Deb, if you wouldn't mind taking us through what this actual migration entailed.
We get started here. So, what I was saying is even before I get started and walk you through the app, how it works end to end, right? I'd like to take a moment here and talk about more about the essence of our the app, right, and how Whisker Seeker benefited out of it, right? So, and this is from our experience from a few of our clients, wherein they try to manually migrate from V2 to V3, right? And they ran into multiple issues, right? Typically, human errors, data loss, and most importantly, time consuming, right? Ranging between a good number of hours to days, in some cases, weeks as well. And that's where you can leverage our app, right? The entire transformation to V2 to V3 can happen, pretty flawless, seamlessly, and it can be, as good as within a couple of hours, and in some cases less than that as well, right? Coming to Whisker Seeker, right? I'm talking about with respect to their few hundred product data, and roughly 100 options and close to 60 odd option sets, right? And most of the products did have SKUs linked to it. A majority of them had product rules, right? And the entire transformation from V2 to V3 was completed in less than 20 minutes, right? So that's the essence of this app, right? That's how you can leverage our app, right? So coming back, how it works, right? So once we get engaged, the sales flow is completed, right? We get started with signing up the agreement page, right? We just need to accept the terms and conditions, and we move on to the next step, which is typically setting up your configurations, right? What we need here, right? We typically would require your V2 store hash and the access tokens, and the same goes with your V3 sandbox store hash and access token, right? We have a mechanism of validating the credentials to ensure the credentials into accurate. So we can do a test connection, save the configurations, and move on to the next one, the next section rather, which is migrate, right? So as you can see, it's a 7-step process, and we call it a 2-phase migration process, right? Why do we call it a 2-phase? What we do in 2 phases, right? Is so typically in phase 1, we deal with step 1, right? Wherein we transfer your key product data from V2 store to V3 sandbox store. Just a point here, there are a few of the data which we don't transfer to V3 sandbox, and to name a few are like the product images, videos, the inventory data, categories, brands, the SCOs, right? But having said that, those data are all saved and retained back once, and you can all visualize that in the V3 experience once the migration is completed, right? So yeah, once the step 1 is completed, we generate a bunch of catalog reports. Typically, it has around 6 reports, and those helps you to profile your data, right? So Samak, can you just go back to step 1, please? Right, thanks. So the most important report over here and to watch out for is the product exception report, right? So typically we capture the exceptions wherein the product could not be processed to V3 sandbox for some reasons, right? And to name a few, it can be like for a given product, SKUs cannot be more than 600, right? The other, exception potentially what we capture here is, again, for a product, for its, the SKUs must have the same number of options and value pairs, right? So typically these are some of the few of the exceptions, right, which we typically capture in this report. And as a good practice, what we recommend is any exceptions which are identified in this report should be handled upfront before we move with the subsequent steps of migration, right? We can still do that at the end of the migration, but as I just said, as a good practice, we recommend, we address them and then we move forward, right? The subsequent step, which is step 2 and step 7, are no more relevant as we speak, right? And those were more related to Google Shopping, but those, that's not needed as of now, right? We don't need to disable the Google Shopping or enable it at the end of the day, right? So the next step is step 3, wherein we process your option set rules, right? So at the beginning of this, step 3, we need to ensure a couple of things, right? One is that you're in the maintenance window. Number 2 is, you have subscribed to rewind backup, right? These are 2 key critical things which we need to ensure before we get started with step 3, right? And as you can see in the checkboxes, we have 3 checkboxes over there where we have to check it and then move on and click on start. If in case you don't have option set rules, we can skip this step and move on to the next step, which is step 4, right? So what we do in step 4, right? So this is where we are actually going to work with your V2 product data, right? We are going to unlink all your option sets and delete the configurable fields if it's applicable in your case, right? Here as well, right? As you can see, it's currently grayed out, but then we have an error report which gets generated at the end of the step, right? And in a healthy situation, right, this report should turn out to be a blank report, right? So once this step is completed, we are supposed to see a banner. That's basically step 5 for us, wherein we should be able to see the upgrade banner, as you can see in this slide here, right? And that should be visible across all your products. So you don't need to go into all the products. You can just go into one of the products and click on update now. So what is going to happen here is once you click on update now, the layout changes from V2 to V3 with bare minimum or basic product information, right? Still, the critical data is yet to be transformed, and that's something which we do in step 6, right? Wherein again we convert back or we link back your pre-product data to your the respective products, right? Here again, once this process is completed, we have a report which we generate, a conversion report. And as like in step 4, if it all goes well, this report should turn out to be a blank report, right? So with that, we are pretty much done with the migration process. And at this point of time, you can leverage the V3 experience, right? So that's all from my side, Dolan.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Deb, for that walkthrough. Let me get going here. So I think the next thing, everyone, is really to hear from Andrew around, what were some of the results and what could be some results in the future as now that they are on V3. So Andrew, back to you.
Yeah, so now being on V3, as far as the day-to-day operations, there's not a huge change other than just the way that it looks. It is nice to go in now and say, hey, the way that I adjust and make changes on my B2B side, which was originally V3, is now the same way I get to make those in my main store that was V2. So that definitely helps. Again, the big end goal in mind, though, for us is getting that multi-storefront and getting these two stores combined so that everything can be viewed in as one.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. It's the road path to MSF. So now let's open it up, folks, to question and answer. And for those that would like to chime in this part of our session, two ways. One is you can raise your hand at the bottom of the screen. There's a little icon that says raise hand, and Samad will unmute for you. The other way is just feel free in the Q&A chat to type in your question, and we actually have a question that came through, so I will read it out loud and we'll kick off with that one. So the question to the group is, does the merchant have to have rewind backup, or can they use a different third-party provider like Staging Pro? So Deb, if you wouldn't mind taking a stab at that one.
Yeah, Dolan. So basically, we recommend our client to rewind backup, but then the app which is just mentioned, like the Staging Pro, right? If it's foolproof, they can go ahead, but then our recommendation certainly is rewind backup.
Okay, hopefully that answers your question from our attendee. Thank you so much for asking that. Also, there's other ones that actually came through that I'm going to kind of throw out there to the team, and then others keep them coming. Samad, let me ask you, and has anyone raised their hand on your side that you're seeing before I jump into some of the other questions that came through before the session?
No, I don't see any.
Okay. So one of the questions a common question that actually came more than once that we want to address during the session is, how long does the migration take, right? So the migration itself, and then I think just to give folks an understanding of from the time that they actually engage with us to when they're actually on the V3 platform, how does that look? So Deb, I'll punt this one back to you.
No problem. So typically, I mean, once we are engaged, right, timeline-wise, I would say it's 3 to 5 days. But we do a lot of things in this, in this duration. I mean, typically we start off with an introductory or kickoff call, right? Then we have when we certainly do step 1 upfront, wherein we don't actually need any downtime, right? But talking about the actual end-to-end migration and the downtime, it's going to be a few hours only, right? Even though it's, as I just mentioned at the beginning, 3 to 5 days, but then actual downtime would be only, a couple of hours max, right?
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Another question that came in earlier that I want to direct to Andrew. So Andrew, recognizing your company has gone through this with us, for some merchants that might be considering migrating to V3, any pieces of advice that you can give to those folks?
Definitely. Something I would say is look into something that we utilize for our business, for all the the different bells and whistles that BigCommerce has, is we have a pretty big tech stack and a pretty big amount of apps that work within BigCommerce. So I would say something to do is, if you are considering making this V3 changes, definitely go through and make sure, hey, do I need to update this app? Is this app going to come through? Just make sure that all those little things that we have come to love to set and forget that just help us run BigCommerce even better, just making sure that those are going to pick up and be applicable on the other side. That's the biggest piece of advice that I can point out to everybody.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Andrew. Any other questions? And feel free, folks, type it in the web chat. I'm sorry, the chat feature here, or raise your hand, and we will definitely do our very best to address it. And I'm also checking just to make sure on my side. Samad, any that's come through on your end?
No.
Okay. All right. So I wanted to also open up the floor to Harry and Vic, and many of you might know they are our co-founders and managing partners. So any advice, any suggestions, any tidbits that you want to give our participants today around V2-V3 migration?
Yeah, thanks, Dolan. I think, since we have a little bit of time, I can add some more details that might be helpful. So we went through a quick overview of the process. So we didn't get to discuss a lot of the details of the upgrade process or the capability of the app or the tool that we use. So I will just say that we have handled quite a few complex scenarios. So, we've already done over 25 upgrades here, and Whisker Seeker in this case was on the lower end of complexity. But, if you have configurable fields, if you have option set rules, if you have, SKUs that have other issues or challenges, right? We've seen a different number of different scenarios, and we've solved for it. So I just wanted to say that, no matter how complex the catalog is, we can handle it. The other thing I'd like to add is the duration of the upgrade in a lot of cases has been pretty short, right? We're talking a couple hours, and typically we're seeing customers that have a few thousand SKUs. But if you have a very large catalog, talking about tens of thousands of SKUs, then obviously it'll be a few more than 2 hours, right? And I just wanted to put it out there. We've seen some catalogs that are pretty large, so it could take 4, 5, 6 hours downtime. So we're flexible to schedule this upgrade to happen at a convenient time that doesn't impact sales as much. So just wanted to leave it there. And Harry, if you want to add anything, please feel free.
No, I think Vic, can you hear me okay, guys?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, by the way, this is Harry Singh. I'm one of the partners here at StrikeTru. So I think, Vic, you kind of hit the timeline aspect. The only one thing I'll add there is, in the course of doing all these V3 migrations in the last several months, we have encountered like all kind of scenarios. The process itself, the actual process itself is only a couple of hours, but sometimes there's a wait from the client side for them to verify and make sure all the data that we put on the sandbox store looks good. So that's kind of typically the wait time, and we work with the clients pretty actively and collaboratively. So that's just a back and forth. But once they're all set and say thumbs up, then it's just a final call where we get on to the last steps of the migration and it gets done. So I think that's pretty much the process is. Yeah, I think feel free to post any questions as a follow-up as well. We do get the inquiries on a daily basis on different kind of catalog sizes and complexities, and there are reasons why clients trying to move to the V3. And I think that's important to highlight here. As Andrew was covering in the initial part, I think the new features of the V3 itself are all the platform features, the MSF. Related to that is, or kind of like another new feature there is the B2B edition app. All these new features and functionalities are basically kind of in a way triggering this particular V3 upgrade, and that's the reason we are getting into all those scenarios. So definitely encourage you to check out our app. It's listed on our website, and follow up with any questions or any clarifications you need.
Yeah, it's a good point, Harry. We have a landing page that also has an extensive list of frequently asked questions on the V2-V3 upgrade. So you can, if you're considering this, you can check that out. And we sometimes get the question, why should we do the V3 upgrade? And Harry listed some reasons, and I'll just add to it in case you're wondering too. So one of the top reasons is companies are looking to migrate to MSF, and getting to V3 is a prerequisite for that. So if you have at least one store that's on V2, and if you're trying to combine multiple stores into an MSF store, you have to be all on V3, right? That's where this upgrade is necessary. And you may also know that V3 has is the platform that BigCommerce is continuing to add new features and all that. V2 development is kind of stalled. So if you're looking for latest and greatest features like MLI, multi-location inventory, B2B, things like that, you have to be on V3. If you're going through some sort of a modernization effort, if your surrounding systems are getting upgraded, if you're trying to integrate your BigCommerce system to a new ERP or a PIM system or something, they all require SKU level data, which again, V3 forces you to do that. V2, you can get away without having SKUs. Just options might be sufficient, but most of the surrounding systems want to work with V3, and a lot of apps are out there. Some of them may want V3. So these are all reasons why you want to be on V3. I know it may be a costly or a complicated process if you're trying to do it internally, and that's where our app comes in. And I also want to add that we have a software tool that pretty much does most of the heavy lifting here, but we also provide managed services on top of it. So, should there be any issue or should you need more services, we are around, because we do a lot of migrations and data management and commerce solutions and services. And if you are one of those that are considering moving to MSF, we also have another turnkey solution that will let you consolidate multiple stores into an MSF. We've already helped a client. Andrew is next, and we have more information on that on our website. So if you're a CSM, or if you're an agency, or if you're a BigCommerce client looking for these, please reach out. We'd be happy to help out. Back to you, Dolan.
Yeah, we just want to quickly add one point. So I think the key thing here is that this tool is battle tested. We have been using it for quite a number of months now. And I think that's the key part. So there's an automation built into it, right? So you might maybe thinking how we are doing it's actually completely automated. We work with you, and then the whole process is automated, tested out. So that's the confidence, that's the expertise the StrikeTru team is building, bringing into the table and helping you succeed in a very predictable fashion. Thank you.
I think you're on mute, Dolan.
Yeah, sorry about that. So thank you both, and a special thanks today to Andrew for joining the conversation, and Deb for walking us through how it works, and of course, Harry and Vic. So Samad, on to the next slide. So just to wrap up for today, we want to give a special thank you for all those that took time out of your schedule to listen in on our session and ask questions. As next steps, as always, we would love for you to follow us on social if you already haven't done so. LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. As Vic mentioned, we have a landing page all dedicated to V2-V3 that talks about the cost, that talks about FAQs, as well as walks you through what Deb has also shared today, along with a user guide. So all of that is there for your viewing pleasures. And before we close off, or actually when you close off, if you wouldn't mind completing a brief survey for us, evaluation on how you felt today's session went. It should take less than 3 minutes to complete. And that'll give us insights into future topics and just overall how you felt everything went today. And then last but not least, folks, stay tuned for our upcoming event, Connect with the Experts. There'll be more information on that. So for those of you that might be hearing what that's about for the first time, it's really a podcast where we provide thought leadership around e-commerce and data management and invite our managing partners, as well as other guest speakers on different topics such as MSF. So food for thought there, and stay tuned. We'll give you more intel on that in our upcoming newsletter. So thank you again from across the US and world for joining today, and looking forward to seeing you again. And stay tuned for those that were participated. We will make sure and have the recording available to all of you. Thanks, everyone, and have a great rest of the day or evening. Take care.